Page 8, Ode to Joy. Theme from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. That's actually a theme from the last movement of that symphony. I'd encourage you, if you haven't, go listen to recordings of the symphony, especially the last movement. That's where this is. Let's cover everything briefly. At the beginning, you have the clef signs and you have the 4/4. That's the time signature. 4 counts in a measure, quarter note gets a count. All right, we're counting quarter notes. Makes sense because you look at those first few measures, they're all quarter notes, and there's 4 of them in each measure. So it comes out as okay. At the beginning of this, above the staff, it says joyfully. Now I have a little problem in a lot of these method books because that's supposed to be a tempo. Joyfully is not a tempo, it's not a speed, it's a feeling. So what they're saying is, do this joyfully, and however fast that is, that's close enough. And that's really kind of what it is, because music is not a set thing on this kind of stuff. And music is a feeling, it is a mood, it is emotion. I mean, otherwise it's just dry notes. So yeah, when you're learning it, it's dry notes because you got to figure out what the notes are and the rhythms and all that junk. But after you can play it, then you start feeling it. It starts getting emotional. It's really a wonderful experience. Joyfully. So we're going to play it joyfully eventually. We're not going to do it joyfully in this video because I do everything really, really slow. So we're going to do it slowly. Dynamics, you see an MF at the beginning, a medium loud. Third line down, you see a P for piano. And then at the end, or you see that crescendo, that arrow, that means get louder. So the third line, we start out soft and we gradually get louder till the last measure, we're loud. Whatever that is, you'll have to decide how loud and soft these things are. And then they don't give you anything until on page 9, third line down. Now you're soft again, but then you're going to get louder. You got that arrow again. And that's pretty much the dynamics. Now let's talk notes and rhythm. I'm going to start with the right hand. The right hand doesn't even come in until the third line down. And you're going to start with your second finger on a D. Put the other fingers on the notes next to, on the keys next to it. I know what I'm talking about, sort of. Just give me a chance. That's where the hand goes. And we have eighth notes and we got dotted rhythms, so let's talk those. So for the right hand, quarter notes to start with, so it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and second measure there on the third line, we have an eighth notes. I can do 1 and 2 and. I put an and in between the numbers. It's how I do it. There's other ways of doing it, but this is how I do it. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and going on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and etc. Then you get over to the top of page 9. On the first line, you got quarter notes going all the way across until the last measure. And then you got a dotted rhythm again. We're back to the dotted rhythms. And it's important that you be able to do dotted rhythms. They're all over the place. Please don't wait for somebody else to play it first and then, oh, okay, I get it, I'll copy that. No. Figure it out. Understand them yourself. So in that last measure of the first line on page 9, it's the quarter note gets a count, so the dot's going to get half of that. Dot gets half the value of the note. So a dot's going to get half a count. We're counting 1 and 2 and, etc. And each one of those is a half a beat. So the dot gets one of these half a beats things. Well, the quarter note gets 1 and 2. See, the dot comes on 2. Because the quarter note's the first beat. 1 and then the dot hits 2, 2, and so the eighth note after that is on the and of 2. And. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Another way of looking at it is that you could convert that quarter note into eighth notes. Well, a quarter note gets 2 eighth notes. It's the same as, and the dot would get 1, so the dotted quarter note's the same as 3 eighth notes. So it'd be 1 and 2. It'd be 3 of those. So it's 1 and 2 and 3. And that's how dotted rhythms work in this case. Then we're fine until we get down to the third line, and you have the eighth notes again, and the last measure of the third line. Let's look at that. Quarter note, quarter rest. You got to be quiet for one beat, and then you have these two notes, the C and the E, at the same time. put my hand in that position, those two fingers are on the bottom, and I drop the hand down to get them both at the same time. And if you look at the first notes on the last line, it's that chord again, except you see the little curved lines that, look at the last beat in the third line, that C and the E, there's a little curved line after it that goes off into nowhere. And if you look at the beginning of the last line, you see the C and the E, it's got curved lines that are coming from nowhere. Well, they're connected. That's how they do it when it's between lines like this. They're tied. In other words, you play the note at the end of the third line and you tie it to the note at the beginning of the next line. In other words, you hold it down for 2 counts. All that explanation just to tell you, hold it down for 2 counts. So to do the last measure of the third line and the first measure of the fourth line, it's this in the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, tie. So we tie those together like that. That's how that works. Very common, you'll see it a lot. For the left hand, at the beginning of this, they say third finger on the E. So I go here, third finger. Put the other fingers around it to where the left hand goes. So all quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Till I get to the end of the line, I have that dotted rhythm again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so the numbers stay the same speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I could do is put an and in here if I wanted to. I'm too lazy. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Because each of those is an eighth note. Well, when I get to the end of the line, that's where it comes in handy. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you're okay then till you get down to the third line and you have those whole notes. 4 counts. That first whole note is tied to the next whole note, so I'm going to hold it down for 8 counts. The second whole note is tied to another whole note. Good grief. Now I'm going to hold it down for 12 counts. I'm going to tie all 3 together, and that's how they do it. Just so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can go on. Then on the last measure of that third line, where the left hand comes in, you have the G and the E. You see the little arrow above the E? That's an accent. That means give it a little extra oomph. Just a little. Just a little extra. Not a lot, because there's other kinds of accents that are stronger than this, so just a little extra. And that note is tied. You see the tie? That goes to the next line, and it's got a tie. You tie that together, so you're going to hold it down for 2 counts. Tie, and then you go on. Top of page 9, you have these notes in the left hand. You have a C and a G. Again, I put my hand in this position with the little finger and the thumb or the lower, and I drop the hand down because I want them at the same time. And they're tied forever, so I'm going to hold them down for 12 counts. And before I go on, the second line's the same. The third line you got tied. The fourth line, they're tied. A lot of tying going on the left hand. And that's pretty much it for the left hand. And hopefully you understand the rest of it. Well, there's a couple little subtle things I'd like to explain that's going on. And maybe you get them, maybe you won't, I don't know. But just in case I want to explain, because it's important that you really understand what's going on. The music's going to get more difficult. So let's get this now. See all the phrase markings, the curved line. The first line on page 8, the whole line is curved. You're going to play all of those connected. Now on a piano, you can't play the same note multiple times and connect it. So you do the best you can. You connect them as best you can. But then when you get to the end of the line, you're playing that half note. Before you go on, you lift up and back down. So it's a difference. It's how you go from one phrase to another. It's here, you lift up, go on. So there's a little silence between them. And when you get to third line, of course the left hand's tied, so you're going to play that once and then hold it down forever. Well, the right hand, that's slurred, and it starts out soft. Remember, in that last measure, the slur goes all the way to the G in the left hand. So you're going to connect those first 3 notes. Then you're going to lift up and go on before you play, lift up and down, a break in the sound before you play the E. So it sounds like this, sort of. It's starting with the 3rd line. You get to the top of page 9 here. The F really applies to the melody. The melody controls everything. The melody is what's important. But at this point in time, I don't know how well you can control how loud you're playing. But if possible, we want to hear the melodies in the right. So you'd play these chords, sort of keep them down a little bit. Can you play one hand louder than the other is what I'm saying. Some people can and can't. You're going to have to learn to do it eventually. It's important that you be able to control how loud or soft you play. So ideally, the right hand will be a little louder than the left here. Etc. for the first 2 lines. Now, getting down to the 3rd and 4th line, this is where it can get tricky. The 3rd line here is like the 3rd line on the previous page, except the last measure is a little different. So it's here. But that last note, rather than being a left hand, here it's the right hand. And it's got an accent and it's loud. Well, you're going to hold that down because you're going to tie it over to the next measure. But as you hold it down, when in the next measure, you see the left hand has to play a chord. So it's here. And then immediately you start with the quarter notes again in the right hand. So to go real slow. 3rd line, last measure, it's here. So the hands are kind of doing meh. So work that out real. It's kind of important that each hand is playing when it's supposed to play. I'll give us 4 counts because it's in 4/4 time. So go ahead and put your hands where they go. The left hand starts here. The right hand will be here. For now, go ahead and put them both up there. Even though the right hand doesn't play for a long time, just go ahead and put it up there. Leave them up there and have them ready to go. 1, 2, ready, go.